But it took more than a few madmen to create this world I was born into. It took faith in their madness.
Fellas, welcome back to Miniature Dork Universe, episode 21. So today we have something a little different. I'm going to review 12mm vehicles and figures from various manufacturers. Some of them are actually 10mm, and I've seen online some questioning as to whether or not 10 and 12mm are compatible, and I would say yes, they are. Also, anything that's 1/144 scale seems to scale out nicely with this stuff. Starting off right here, these two are 1/144 scale dragon armor, or dragon mini armor, or some shit like that, that I bought off eBay a while back. Yeah, they're very nice. The new Victrix line have a series of vehicles, of which they have some Panzer IVs, but I find that the dragon ones are a little bit nicer. So I'll get started with this review. This first video is going to be a review of the Germans, and then the next video will be a review of Americans, followed up by a review of some of the terrain. So yeah, there'll be 3 videos. What I'm going to be doing is like a late 1943 sort of Sicily and Italy type battles. So I have terrain and vehicles that are reflective of that period. So that's what you'll be seeing in these videos. But, you know, all of the campaigns of World War II are well covered by these manufacturers that I'll be showing. So yeah, you can do just about anything. And there's a long list of models upcoming from Victrix, infantry and whatnot. They recently released Russians and they look very nice. And they have some German Fallschirmjäger too, I think, either coming up or already released, that look very nice. So we'll just get into this, and I'll just go through and show you like comparisons of what some of these vehicles look like and how they scale out, or the figures too. So I won't get too into detail about the O group rules, but the basing is a little bit more abstract, so you can kind of have fun with it. If you want to look at the gaming mechanism of O group, there's some YouTube channels that cover it really well. Storm of Steel, that's a great channel. He has lots of content on many different game rule sets. There's Check Your Leader. He does a fairly thorough sort of rundown of O group. And then, of course, Two Fat Lardies. I think they're actually involved in the making of this game. Maybe. I could be wrong about that. But nevertheless, their web or their YouTube channel covers the rules quite well. So you could look at that if you're interested in checking out those rules. But I'm not going to cover them. We'll begin with the Victrix Germans. I'm not going to go into like very long descriptions of all these things because I have quite a bit of stuff to show you. What I'm trying to impress here is the different manufacturers and how they look together and scale out with one another, so that if you're planning to do armies, you'll be able to get all the stuff that you need and have it scale out pretty nicely, because you know me and scale, I hate it when things look wonky together. So the Germans overall, they're great figures. They have a lot of detail. Some of the poses in the 2 Victrix sets that I have are a little bit unusual. The grenade thrower looks a little weird, and the way some of the prone guys are lying down, it's a little strange. However, they're so small that they still look great when you paint them up. I'll show you a couple. I've started to paint just a very few. I did some Americans and Germans just to see if, you know, how the colors look, and you know, they're much smaller, so it was kind of a test, but I'll show you those couple of test figures near the end. So you come with a group of riflemen, and then a group of, you know, officers and weapons like a 81 millimeter mortar and MG42s, both the light machine gun and the tripod mounted medium machine gun. There's radio operators, there's Panzer Schrecks and Panzerfausts. There's even a 50 millimeter mortar, which probably isn't that useful for, you know, late war infantry. Oh yeah, I should specify these are late war infantry. I didn't mention that. However, some specialist groups like mountain troops, I think, retain their 5 millimeter mortars, and maybe it's not impossible to see a, not 5 millimeter, my name Ryan, 50 millimeter, 5 centimeter mortar. Anyway, I'm sure you know what I meant. Now, the next biggest manufacturer I've encountered online are Pendraken, and they say that they're 10 millimeter, and I would say that they scale out quite nicely with the 12 millimeter, and so with Pendraken I'm getting all of my like artillery pieces and some light vehicles and things like that. They have World War II well covered, so you can get just about anything on their website. I would say their models, for the most part, they're pretty good, and some of them are really good. And some of them, you know, they're a little bit more crude. I'll show you some Pendraken. This is the Horsch heavy car. You know, it's reasonable. It'll look good painted up. So, because there's an abstract basing and it's battalion-sized game, I'm going to actually put light vehicles in some of the stands with the infantry, just because they're small, just because I can, and I think it'll also draw attention to what the actual stands are, but I'm also going to put my labels on them. Another manufacturer that I really like is Arrowhead Miniatures. Here's a Pack 40 from Arrowhead that I've put together. It's a very nice model, I think. The muzzle brake is a little bit squirrely maybe, but I think when it's painted up it's going to look great. I'm going to camouflage it up and base it for like an Italian theater. This RSO is also Arrowhead, and it's very nice, as you can see. Crisply detailed. I've put it together. It was probably about 5 pieces that you had to glue together in white metal. I'll put it beside one of the Dragon armor, mini armor. That's what it's called. I have the box right beside me. So you can see it scales out fairly nicely. And this is the Pendraken freaking Horsch, I don't know how you say it. The only thing I don't like about the Dragon armor is that the tracks don't fit all the way around. I've had to like just sort of glue the tracks up in here. So these guys with the shields, I'm going to cut out a section and fill in that piece that's missing in the tracks. But that's kind of unfortunate that they don't include long enough tracks. I think if you wanted, some people base their vehicles, if you want to base these, which you could well do in O group, because one tank equals like 2 or 3 tanks, so you could put it on a base with a tactical symbol or something. You could just put the missing track piece down along the ground, and it would just disappear into the groundwork. So it's not the end of the world. It would be nicer if the tracks were full. If you get the Victrix models, I'm sure, you know, they have plastic tracks, so that will be fine. What I didn't like about Victrix is they're basically just like the PSC models, Plastic Soldier Company, except in 12 millimeter scale. And you know, their Panzer IV is a little strange. You know, it's kind of a mix of early Panzer IV and late Panzer IV. Like, for example, the G has the split hatch, whereas the H has the single hatch. fact, I think the single hatch might have been introduced with the Aus G at some point. But for sure the H's all had them. So you get this kind of wonky Panzer IV. Whereas these are pretty accurate. This is a G and this is an H. The G even has a shorter, I think the H had an L48 gun and the G had an L42. So those guns are reflected in the kits. The G also comes with the earlier sort of round muzzle brake at the end. So yeah, that's the Dragon armor. They have a very small. This is a very small range. There's some German tanks. There's some Tigers and Sturmgeschütz 4s and things. But yeah, I would say I'm pretty happy with those. I've also magnetized the turrets. I like magnetic turrets. They just slam on like that, which is good. This is the Panzer IV box. The other thing that there's a lot of is 3D printed stuff, and the 3D printed stuff is looking pretty nice, especially in this smaller scale. Like the little Schwimmwagen, I think, is just great. Lots of detail, and I got drivers from Pendraken, so I can just jam a driver in there. Oh, should put it under here. I got the drivers from Pendraken, so I can just jam a driver in there, and that'll look pretty bloody good. Yeah, really happy. So these come from Butler's printed models, and I had them printed in the high res resin, and they look just great. So I got one of these. I just got one of these Martyr 2s. The Martyr 2s were only used by Luftwaffe units in Italy, like the Fallschirmjäger divisions, and I think there's a Luftwaffe field division that used them, and of course Hermann Göring division. And I'm fielding like an army division, but I don't care. I just like the Panzer II, the Martyr 2, and it's a great kit. Like, it looks really good. And also the Germans used a number of these captured Italian AB-41s and AB-43s. Yeah, I think they used them in place of the 8-wheel armored cars, but they also used them in infantry divisions so that their Aufklärung, their reconnaissance units, could have armored vehicles. And it was a fairly good Italian vehicle, like one of the few that were actually good. So I think the Germans actually liked them. And again, this is a really nice kit. I'm looking forward to painting this up in Italian colors, but putting German crosses on. For some reason, I like that stuff. And of course, Butler's printed models has all the guns, and I'm crewing them up with Pendraken. In some cases, I've bought the Pendraken gun as well, just so that I can get the crew from it. But these 3D printed guns, I think, are probably much nicer. I'll show you the difference so you can choose. Hopefully, I mean, they're so tiny, hopefully they're showing up in the camera. This is the IG-18 infantry gun. So I think in Butler's printed models, I'll put them in the middle, I think they're sold as 12 mil, and so the 10 millimeter gun does look a little bit different, although the figures really match up with the Victrix figures. So yeah, I think I'm going to use the figures with the 3D printed gun, and I'll find some use for these metal guns somewhere along the line. I got Afrika Korps crews for these infantry guns because Afrika Korps uniforms they were stored in Italy, so a lot of the troops there were wearing bits and pieces from Afrika Korps units. So there's some gun crews to put with it, and I'll base them up on bases. I think somewhere I have also, yeah, some SDKFZ 10s. So that's what the SDKFZ 10 looks like, and again, it's a little less detailed than some of the other ones, but it still looks great, and I think I can detail it up. I bought some somewhere I bought some 1144 German tools. That's how geeky I am. So I'm going to tool this up and make it look great. And I think in my artillery stands, I'm going to put like one of the prime towers on, just because I can. It'll just make the stand look nice. And, you know, one stand equals, I think it equals the whole platoon of guns, so you don't need to go crazy with figures and vehicles. You can just buy a few that represent a lot, which is nice. I think the majority of my stuff is probably Butler's printed models. And then, of course, my German tanks are the Dragon armor tanks. So you can see them all together. Once again, Dragon armor, all of this stuff here is Butler's printed models. And this is Pendraken. Oh, and then, of course, I forgot these guys, Arrowhead. So this is an Arrowhead RSO and the Arrowhead Pack 40. Butler's, I should move this up. Butler's printed models, their artillery pieces are really nice too. But I thought I had to have that Arrowhead Pack 40 because to me it looks very Pack 40-y. So I got it. And yeah, this is Arrowhead too, I think, the Italian staff car. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think I am. I don't think that's a Pendraken. And I will just conclude by showing you some of my Victrix figures painted. So yeah, the rifleman's, as I said, he's got the Italian camouflage on his pants. He's wearing a regular European uniform tunic. The officer's sort of in reverse. He's got an Afrika Korps tunic with European pants and boots. But that's common for Italy, and especially Panzer Grenadiers, which these guys are going to be. The guys facing the Americans in Operation Husky, not Operation Husky, Operation Avalanche, the landings at Salerno. That's sort of what this stuff is more based on. Operation Husky was a lot of Fallschirmjäger. The landings at Salerno were opposed by Panzer Grenadier divisions predominantly. So that's what these guys are reflecting. So as you can see, they paint up quite nicely, and I think they'll base up really nicely. I'm kind of happy with this scale so far, and the availability of all the vehicles and the different infantry that you can get. So hopefully you find that helpful and that answers some of your questions. I didn't go into super deep review mode in any of these things, but the point was just to show you what they look like together. And if you're thinking about buying some of this stuff, or if you're worried if your 10mm is going to match your 12mm, or if the 1144 vehicles, there's other 1144 vehicles too. I think Revell has a set of American vehicles, and things like that. Of course, the Dragon armor. The Dragon mini armor is all German stuff. I don't think they have a single non-German subject there, but they are still pretty nice, and the boxes are kind of cool too. You get a couple color variations, but of course, you all know Panzer IV as well. They can be so many different camouflage schemes, so I'm just going to do mine straight up Dunkelgelb and make them look kind of tropical, or not tropical, but southern Italy theater-esque. Maybe put some foliage camouflage on or something. I'm going to camouflage up the AB41 though with something cool. Yeah, righto, that's it. And stay tuned. Soon I'll come along with the American video, where I'll review all the American stuff that I have, and then I'll follow up this little section of videos on 12mm with the terrain I got for Italy. There's probably more terrain for the European theater, and I think that's the case with most scales. When I say European, I mean Northwest European, but I figure you guys figured that. Yeah. All right, bye for now.
Liking and subscribing to Miniature Dork Universe makes you 97.382% more attractive to women.
No, it